When we did the centenary of this program 3 years ago, the Honorable President of India had, of course, acknowledged it via a letter, and he had written, "This is a day of remembrance, not of celebration." And I think, very importantly today, the most important thing in all of our thoughts is those that were martyred or those that were participated in the liberation of Haifa, alongside various other cities throughout the Gulf, as well as the entire participation in the First World War. So, remembering them, two members, I think, very importantly, from the Mysore royal family itself. First being Colonel Desrajars, who was the brother-in-law of Krishna Wadiyar IV. I believe one of these roads is in his name. Unfortunately, former chief minister of ours having a similar name, people have mixed up the two and continue to name it by him. But I think that should be rectified and put properly, because his participation as the representative of the Maharaja was immense across the First World War, and I believe as well as part of later wars. Secondly is Bahadur Chamrajars, who was the grandfather of Maharani Tripura Sundaramani. He took part in most of the wars, and famously also while defending the Suez Canal in hand-to-hand combat with the rebels there, or mercenaries hired by the Ottoman Turks, was able to overcome, and many of them via hand-to-hand combat. So two people from the royal family itself and many others from various other communities, our Arsu community as well, who took part in the various wars, both world wars, and but primarily, of course, today being the Haifa Celebration Day, remembering that and that sacrifice. As our Honorable Education Minister has said, many of us didn't know about this sacrifice. And while, depending on the lens, maybe it's excusable or not that the world forgot it, it's inexcusable that we have forgotten that the participation of India within the first two world wars is incredibly immense. We were just discussing yesterday with Sri Ravi Kumar Ayarji that across the board, whenever there is a World War movie, either the First or the Second World War, there is never any depiction of Indian soldiers, when across the board, invariably there would be Indian soldiers there. It just shows like the collective memory of the world has forgotten, and together with that, we've also chosen to forget. And I think that's a wrong we've been doing. Many of you might know a very common or a very sort of famous historian today, and had written a very famous book called Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari. He said very poignantly yesterday, or a couple days ago, that the most important lesson from history is not just to learn from it, but to be liberated by it. And I think entirely in the world over, unless the sacrifice of Indians in the first two world wars is known to the world over, we cannot be liberated from that fact moving forward. And it should start by we ourselves recognizing this history and knowing about it. If we have to solve it, it has to come from our education books itself. So I think that is the most important thing today. Of course, we have Sri Ravi Kumar Ayarji, members of the Baha'i, all of who are Mr. Ravi Kumar, who has diligently, prior to any of us knowing the complete history, written about it and continue to tell everyone about it and educate everybody and bring awareness about the issue. Of course, the Baha'i community we are now very close to in India, and I think the home to the greatest number of the Baha'i who are living here in India, and I had the honor of being at the Lotus Temple for their commemoration. So while all the communities relevant to it haven't forgotten, Indians at a large have overall forgotten this sacrifice, and I think it's very important that we do it. We have, of course, Sri Bhaskar Rao with us, who has throughout from the centenary till now been sort of the brand or the icon for this remembering Haifa Day, and from police side and not just from any governmental side, he has been sort of the stalwart in pushing this agenda of remembering our World War veterans, not just in Haifa but across the board. So, of course, many thanks to him as well. And of course, all the families who were either martyred or took part in the war today, to them we are in their sacrifice, of course, is invaluable for the freedoms the world enjoys today. Because we forget the first two world wars essentially paved the way for the institutions of today. that we all enjoy and take for granted. So their sacrifice is immense, not just for India, but for the world over. So, of course, thank you to all your families. And from the palace side, our participation and our support is always there. Uh, Thank you once again, remembering all of our soldiers. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.